There are moments in your life when the walls seem to be closing in, when the weight of the unknown feels heavier than anything you have ever carried, and when the silence of the night feels deafening. You look for stability, you look for a foundation that cannot be shaken, and you look for a shield that actually holds against the storm. Most people search for this in the wrong places, chasing temporary fixes that crumble at the first sign of pressure. But what if there was an ancient, ironclad promise of protection that has stood the test of thousands of years? What if you could step into a fortress that no anxiety, no fear, and no darkness could penetrate? Today, we are going to unlock the secrets of two of the most powerful passages ever written, Psalm 91 and Psalm 93. These aren't just words on a page, they are a blueprint for spiritual survival. We will break them down layer by layer, showing you how to translate this ancient wisdom into your daily reality, starting with a prayer that sets the tone for your entire existence. If you feel like your peace is slipping away, listen closely. By the time we finish, you will understand exactly how to command a level of calm that the world cannot give, and more importantly, cannot take away. Let's begin by aligning our hearts. Before we dive into the mechanics of these psalms, let's ground ourselves. Repeat these words, not just with your lips, but with the intent of your soul. Divine Presence, who dwells in the secret place of the Most High, I come before you seeking the shadow of the Almighty. I declare that you are my refuge and my fortress, the only true anchor in a world of constant motion. As I open my heart to the wisdom of the 91st and 93rd Psalms, let every layer of fear, doubt, and chaos be stripped away. I recognize that you are the King, clothed in majesty and strength. Let these truths become the armor I wear today. Let my mind be sharpened by your light, and let my spirit be anchored in your unchanging power. I move from a place of questioning into a place of absolute trust. May your word be a lamp to my feet and a shield over my life. Amen. Now, let's talk about the anatomy of protection found in Psalm 91. This chapter is widely considered the ultimate spiritual safeguard, but most people read it like a poem and move on. That is a mistake. It is a tactical manual. The psalmist begins by saying, "He who dwells in the secret place of the Most High shall abide under the shadow of the Almighty." Notice the word dwell. It's not a visitor's pass, it's an address. You don't just pop in when things get tough, you build your life there. The secret place is an intentional space of intimacy where the noise of the world is silenced. When you dwell there, you are under a shadow. Think about what a shadow represents. It's the immediate, undeniable evidence of an object's presence. If you are in the shadow of the Almighty, He is right there, hovering over you, blocking the heat of the fire and the intensity of the storm. But how do you actually live in that place? It starts with the acknowledgement of who is in charge. Most of our anxiety comes from trying to play God in our own lives, managing outcomes, predicting futures, and fearing shadows. Psalm 91 tells us that if we admit He is the ultimate power, we are free from the need to control everything ourselves. It shifts the burden. You are no longer carrying the weight of the universe. You are being carried by the one who created it. Consider the imagery used later in the psalm, the snare of the fowler and the noisome pestilence. These represent the traps and the invisible threats that stalk us in the dark. Life is full of snares, betrayals, sudden losses, professional setbacks, health scares. They are designed to catch you off guard. But the text says that you are delivered from the trap. This doesn't mean you won't encounter the trap. It means you will not be held by it. Your perspective becomes higher than the ground where the traps are laid. You begin to see the situation from a vantage point of sovereignty. Now, let's pivot to Psalm 93. If Psalm 91 is your personal shield, Psalm 93 is the declaration of the King's throne. It says, "The Lord reigns, He is clothed with majesty. The Lord is clothed, He has girded Himself with strength." Imagine a king who does not react, but who rules. When the waves rise, when the oceans roar, when the world seems to be in a state of absolute upheaval, the Lord stands on a throne that was established of old. There is a magnificent stability here. Think about the ocean. It is vast, powerful, and often chaotic. Yet it has boundaries that it cannot cross. That is the power of the Creator. He sets the limit for the storm. When you realize that your problems are subject to the same boundaries that God set for the seas, your panic level drops significantly. Why? Because you realize that even your biggest challenges have a thus far and no further point. Retention is key here. Why do we lose our peace so easily? It's because we focus on the roaring of the waves rather than the stability of the throne. We let the news cycle, the opinions of others, and our own internal insecurities dictate our emotional landscape. But Psalm 93 is a corrective lens. It forces you to look up. It forces you to acknowledge that majesty is the baseline of the universe. The Lord is not nervous about your future. He is not surprised by your current setback. He is seated, He is reigning, and He is consistent. Let's break down the logic of this. If you are struggling with a specific fear, ask yourself, does this fear have more authority than the King of the universe? If the answer is no, then why are you giving it the authority to dictate your heart rate? The psalmist writes, "The floods have lifted up, O Lord. The floods have lifted up their voice. The floods lift up their waves." Even the psalmist admits the situation is loud. Even he acknowledges the chaos. But he immediately follows it up with the turning point. The Lord on high is mightier than the noise of many waters, yea, than the mighty waves of the sea. This is the psychological turning point you need. You don't ignore the noise. You don't pretend the waves aren't there. You recognize them, and then you weigh them against the majesty of the one who holds the power. When you do that calculation, the math changes, the problem shrinks, the protection expands. This is the secret to living a life of internal stillness amidst external madness. It is the ability to harmonize your spirit with the unchanging nature of the divine. Many people ask, how do I maintain this state when the pressure returns tomorrow morning? You maintain it through constant recalibration. You don't read these psalms once and expect them to be a permanent psychic firewall. You return to them. You reset your internal clock to the frequency of the throne. You remind yourself that you are in the shadow of the Almighty. You remind yourself that the Lord is clothed in strength. This is not about positive thinking. This is about objective reality. If there is a God who reigns, then your situation is inherently temporary. If there is a shield that covers you, your vulnerabilities are protected. We often think that peace is the absence of trouble. That is a myth. Peace is the presence of a deeper reality that overrides the trouble. When you study the language of these psalms, you see words like refuge, fortress, steadfast, and majesty. These are heavy, immovable words. They are the opposite of the fleeting, flimsy nature of our anxieties. By immersing yourself in these words, you are literally changing the architecture of your thoughts. You are building mental structures that are resistant to the erosion of fear. Think about how you speak to yourself. Are you affirming the reality of the storm, or are you affirming the reality of the throne? When you wake up, before you check your phone, before you look at your email, before you engage with the demands of the day, do you ground yourself? Do you remember that you are dwelling in a secret place that is shielded from the chaos? Most of our stress is self-imposed because we start the day by bowing down to the noise. We let the floods of the world tell us how our day is going to go. Instead, try this. Start your day by declaring the sovereignty of the King. Tell yourself that the Lord reigns, and therefore your life is within the boundaries of His protection. This isn't just about surviving, it's about thriving. A person who is secure in their protection is a person who can take risks. They can be kind when others are cruel. They can be patient when others are erratic. They can lead when others are retreating. Why? Because they aren't operating out of a deficit of safety. They are operating from a surplus of protection. When you know you are covered, you don't need to fight for status, for validation, or for temporary security. You already have it. We see this pattern throughout history. The individuals who had the greatest impact on the world were not those who were the most protected from danger, but those who were the most anchored in their conviction. They were the ones who understood that they were part of a larger divine story that was being directed by a king who is clothed in majesty. They didn't panic when the waves rose because they knew the king was mightier than the sea. You have the same access today. You don't need a specific place or a specific time to enter the secret place. You simply need a willing heart that chooses to turn its gaze away from the chaos and toward the throne. It is a subtle shift in the eyes of the soul. As we deepen this understanding, consider the role of obedience. The psalmist says, "Because he has set his love upon me, therefore I will deliver him." Protection isn't a magical charm you carry in your pocket. It's the result of an active, loving relationship. When you love someone, you listen to them, you orient your life around them. When you love the Creator, you start to see the world through His eyes. You start to value what He values. You start to move in rhythms that align with His character. This alignment is what brings you into the shadow. It's not just a declaration, it's a way of being. What are the snares in your life right now? Perhaps it's a career path that feels like it's going nowhere. Perhaps it's a relationship that is draining your spirit. Perhaps it's a habit you can't break, or a health issue that looms over you. Bring those specific things into the shadow of the Almighty. Don't try to fix them with the same thinking that created them. Bring them to the throne. Ask yourself, what would the King do? Ask yourself, is this fear consistent with the reign of the Most High? You will find that when you place your problems in that context, they lose their power to paralyze you. Look at the resilience found in these passages again. 1,000 may fall at your side, and 10,000 at your right hand, but it shall not come near you. This sounds radical, but it speaks to the spiritual covering that persists regardless of the external statistics. You are not a statistic. Your life is not subject to the same laws of failure that govern the world at large. You are under a different jurisdiction. You are under the governance of the King who reigns. This is where the transformation happens. When you stop identifying with your problems and start identifying with your protector, the dynamic changes. You become a person who walks through life with a different kind of posture. People will notice it. They will see that you are not easily shaken. They will notice that you don't panic when the floods lift their voices. They will wonder how you stay so calm, so steady, and so assured. That is your testimony. That is the proof that you are dwelling in the secret place. As you reflect on this, remember the imagery of the sea. It is chaotic, yes, but it is also finite. It has a depth, but it is not infinite. The throne of the Lord, however, is eternal. It is outside of time. It is not affected by the changing tides of human history or the volatility of personal circumstance. When you root your identity in that which is eternal, you become immovable. You become like a tree planted by the water, not just because you are close to the source, but because you are nourished by a reality that is deeper than the droughts of the world. We live in an age of constant stimulation, where every headline is designed to elicit a reaction, where every notification is an attempt to hijack your attention. The practice of Psalm 91 and Psalm 93 is an act of rebellion against this chaos. By choosing to dwell in the secret place, you are reclaiming your sovereignty. You are saying, I will not be moved by the things that are meant to distract me. I will be moved only by the one who created me. Think about the clarity this brings. When you are no longer distracted by the noise, you can hear the whisper of guidance. You can make better decisions. You can see the path ahead, not because the fog has lifted, but because you have a light that cuts through it. This is the promise for those who set their love upon the Lord. This is the reality for those who recognize the majesty of the King. Let's carry this forward. It's not enough to hear these words. You have to embody them. The next time you feel the panic rising, the next time the floods start to roar, stop. Literally stop. Breathe. Remind yourself, the Lord reigns. He is clothed in majesty. I am in the shadow of the Almighty. Use these words as your mental anchor. Speak them into the situation. Watch how the intensity of the fear begins to dissipate. Watch how your perspective shifts from the problem to the throne. This is a lifestyle of strength. It is a way of walking that defies the gravity of despair. It is a journey that takes you from the surface level of reactive living into the deep, profound stillness of proactive peace, and it is available to you right now, in this very moment. You don't need to wait for a better time. You don't need to wait for the storm to pass. The shelter is already here. The throne is already established. You are already invited to dwell in the secret place. As we conclude this reflection, carry these verses in your heart. Let them be the first things you think of when you wake and the last things you think of before you sleep. Let them redefine your boundaries and your capabilities. You are stronger than you think, not because of your own grit, but because of the one who covers you. You are more capable than you realize because you have the wisdom of the King guiding your steps. The path ahead is not about the absence of challenges. It is about the presence of a King who makes you more than a conqueror over them. Walk in that assurance today. Walk in the confidence of someone who knows exactly where their safety is found. You are secure, you are seen, and you are supported by the greatest power in the universe. Do not let the world tell you otherwise. If this resonated with you, if you feel that shift in your own spirit, I invite you to keep this practice alive. Share this message with someone who needs to be reminded of their protection, and don't forget to subscribe for more deep dives into the wisdom that shapes our lives. Stay rooted, stay protected, and walk in the majesty of the truth.